What makes Gallino such a fascinating problem in Landman right now is that he's already crossed an important line. He's no longer just a distant power player. He's becoming a friend to both Tommy Norris and Cami Miller. And that shift changes everything. Friendship, or even the illusion of it, creates trust. It lowers defenses. It makes people less likely to ask hard questions. Gallino isn't just operating in the background anymore. He's positioning himself emotionally and personally in the lives of the people who are closest to the center of the storm. That's not an accident, and it's not harmless. With Tommy, the dynamic feels rooted in shared pressure and mutual necessity. Tommy is constantly fighting fires, trying to keep his head above water in a world that never stops squeezing him. Gallino meets him with calm, with assurances, with a sense that someone powerful is finally on his side. And that's incredibly seductive. When you feel trapped, the person who says, "I've got this," starts to feel like an ally, even if they benefit more than you do from your loyalty. Tommy doesn't just work with Gallino anymore. He leans on him. And that dependence is exactly where things get dangerous. Cami's connection to Gallino feels different, but just as risky. Where Tommy responds to authority and structure, Cami responds to validation and stability. Gallino offers both. He listens. He affirms. He comes off composed and reassuring in contrast to the volatility she's surrounded by. From her perspective, he doesn't look like a threat at all. He looks like a protector. But the reality is that Gallino gains influence by becoming emotionally indispensable. Once that bond forms, it becomes harder for Cami to see where his interests end and hers begin. What makes this especially unsettling is how natural these friendships feel on screen. Nothing about them looks manipulative on the surface. Gallino isn't twisting arms or making threats. He's offering guidance, perspective, and access. That's exactly why it works. Influence built through likability is far stronger than influence built on fear. By the time anyone realizes how deep the hook is, they're already compromised in ways they can't easily undo. This also reframes Gallino's role in the larger story. He's no longer just operating through corporate channels and behind-the-scenes deals. He's embedded in the emotional network of the show. When he speaks to Tommy or Cami now, it's not just business, it's personal. And that creates a situation where conflicts of interest become invisible. They don't feel like conflicts at all when they're wrapped in familiarity and trust. The unsettling part is that neither Tommy nor Cami fully understands what this means for them yet. From their perspective, Gallino feels like preparation, like backup, like someone who can steady the chaos. But from a wider angle, he's also narrowing their options. The more they confide in him, rely on him, and accept his framing of events, the harder it becomes for them to act independently. And once independence is gone, accountability usually follows close behind. This is why Gallino being labeled as a friend should worry viewers more than any overt threat ever could. Friends shape decisions. Friends influence timing. Friends guide reactions. A villain across the table is obvious. A villain beside you is invisible. Gallino doesn't have to issue a single command to steer outcomes. He just has to nudge, reassure, and redirect at the right moment. What makes all of this work so effectively is how understated it is. The show doesn't announce that Gallino is manipulating anyone. It simply lets the relationships breathe. It lets trust settle in. It shows him arriving not as a storm, but as shelter. And that slow, quiet infiltration is far more realistic than any dramatic power grab. By turning Gallino into Tommy Norris and Cami Miller's friend, Landman has quietly raised the stakes. Because whatever fallout is coming, and it is coming, it won't just be professional. It will be personal. Betrayals hurt more when they come from someone you trusted. Consequences cut deeper when they're delivered by someone you once leaned on. And by the time Tommy and Cami fully realize what Gallino represents, the damage may already be locked in motion.